I never imagined I would become the man with a revenge story. My name is Ethan Miller. 3 years ago, I was just another computer programmer with big dreams and a mortgage that felt too big for my small life in Brooksville. I had a wife named Laura who I truly believed was the love of my life. We lived in a small apartment that was more wires and computer parts than furniture. I had a startup idea that kept me awake most nights, convinced it would finally change everything for us. One evening I was hunched over my keyboard, fingers flying as I tried to finish the last pieces of what I believed would be groundbreaking software. My eyes were sore, my back hurt, but I felt close. So close that I could almost see our future changing. Ethan, we need to talk. Laura spoke from behind me. Her voice sounded tight and serious. I barely glanced over my shoulder. Just 5 more minutes, I said. I am almost finished with this code. No, Ethan. No. There was something sharp in her tone that I had not heard before. That finally made me turn my chair around. She was standing near the door with 2 suitcases. Not 1. 2. She was dressed like she was going somewhere expensive and important. My stomach dropped. The air felt heavy. What is going on, I asked, even though deep down a part of me already knew this was bad. She walked over and placed a manila envelope on the coffee table between some old pizza boxes and my scattered notes. Divorce papers, she said. I already signed them. The room seemed to tilt sideways. The word stuck in my head like an echo. Divorce. Laura, what are you talking about, I said. We can fix whatever this is. We can work through it. She laughed, but it was not the warm laugh I had fallen in love with. This laugh was cold and almost cruel. Work through it, Ethan, we have been trying to work through it for 3 years. I am done. I am done living like this. Done with your promises that your big break is just around the corner. Done with cutting coupons and buying the cheapest groceries while my friends post photos from their vacations in Europe. I stood up, my project completely forgotten for the first time in months. Laura, I am close. So close. This platform can change everything for us. That is what you said about the last 3 projects, she replied, folding her arms. She paused, bracing herself. Then she said the words that hit me like a punch to the chest. I have met someone else. Those 4 words knocked the breath out of me. Who, I asked, forcing the word out. Richard Stanton. At first the name meant nothing. Then it hit me all at once. Richard Stanton, CEO of Stanton Enterprises, one of the biggest tech companies on the East Coast. I had read about him in tech magazines. I had imagined pitching my ideas to his company someday. The Richard Stanton, I asked. How did you even meet him? Laura looked away. Her cheeks turned slightly red. I applied for an executive assistant job at his company 6 months ago, she said. I did not tell you because I knew you would take it as a sign that I did not believe in your work. 6 months, my voice cracked. You have been seeing him for 6 months. It was not like that at first, she said quickly. But yes, we have been together for about 4 months now. Ethan, he can give me the life I want. The life you promised me when we got married. I felt like I was drowning. So all those late nights at work I began slowly. I was with Richard, she finished. And his world is everything I have always wanted. He has a penthouse in New York, a vacation house in the Hamptons. He flies private, Ethan. Private jets. Her eyes sparkled as she talked about him. I realized I was looking at a stranger, not the woman I married. And what about love, I asked quietly. Do you love him? She hesitated just long enough for me to understand the truth. Then she answered. I am learning to, she said. But what I know for sure is that I do not love this life anymore. She gestured at our little apartment. The cheap couch. The second-hand table. My computers stacked everywhere. I do not love watching you waste your potential on pipe dreams that never pay off, she added. Waste my potential, Laura, I said slowly. I have been building something revolutionary. No, she snapped. You have been hiding from reality. Real successful people are not locked away in apartments in Brooksville. They are in New York or Silicon Valley making connections and making things happen. Her words were full of venom. Each one CUT.SO, that is it, I said. After 5 years of marriage, you are just walking out. Richard is waiting for me, downstairs, she replied calmly. She checked her watch. I will be staying at his place in the city until the divorce is final. My lawyer will contact you about dividing assets. Though there is not much to divide, is there? The look she gave me was full of contempt. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. Laura, please, I said. I hated how desperate I sounded. Just give me a chance to show you. The platform is almost ready. I have meetings with investors next week. I have heard it all before, Ethan, she said. And even if by some miracle you do succeed this time, it is too late for us. She picked up her suitcases. Richard knows real investors, she went on. Not the small-time angels you keep chasing. He could have helped you. He could have opened doors. But you were too proud to ask for help. I wanted to make it on my own merit, I said. And look where that got you, she replied. Look where it got us. She shook her head. Sign the papers, Ethan. Do not drag this out. As she walked toward the door, a horrible thought hit me. Did you tell him about my platform, I asked. About my algorithms. Laura paused with her back to me. Richard was interested, she said. He asked questions. I might have shared some details. The betrayal was complete. Not only was she leaving me for another man, but she had also shared the secrets of my life's work with him. You had no right, I said, my voice suddenly hard. That was proprietary information. She turned around. For a second I thought I saw guilt in her eyes, but it disappeared quickly. It does not matter, Ethan, she said. Even if your idea is as good as you think, Richard has the money and the team to build it better and faster. That is reality. Get out, I said quietly. Gladly, she replied. She opened the door. Before leaving, she added, "Oh, and Ethan. Richard says men like you are a dime a dozen in this industry. Ideas are worthless without capital and connections." Remember that. Then she was gone. The door clicked shut. The only things she left were the smell of her expensive perfume and the divorce papers on the coffee table. I stayed there standing in the middle of the room, unable to move. Minutes felt like hours. My world had collapsed in a single evening. Finally, I walked to the kitchen and pulled out a bottle of Johnny Walker Black. We had been saving it for a special celebration. This was not the celebration we had planned, but it felt darkly appropriate. After 3 glasses, I felt numb enough to think clearly. Laura had not just broken my heart. She had put my entire future in danger. If Stanton used my algorithms, years of work might be ruined. I could end up fighting my own ideas, now powered by one of the biggest tech companies around. I grabbed my phone and called my friend Marcus. He was a lawyer who specialized in intellectual property. She told him what Marcus nearly shouted after I explained everything. "Ethan, that is a serious breach of confidentiality. Did she sign an NDA when you started building this?" "No," I admitted. "She was my wife. Or was. I never thought I needed one." "Rookie mistake," he said with a sigh. "But this is not hopeless. You need to document everything. Every stage of development. Every proprietary element you created. Timestamps on your code commits. Emails. Notes. If Stanton releases anything that looks like your platform, we can build a case. It will mean years of legal fighting against a company with almost unlimited legal money though." "One battle at a time," I said. "Exactly," he replied. "First finish your platform. Get it to market. Make a name for yourself. Then we deal with Stanton if we have to." We hung up. I looked around the apartment. It felt empty and too quiet without Laura's presence and constant complaints. Her last words kept echoing in my mind. "Men like you are a dime a dozen." That night I made a decision. I would not only finish the platform, I would make it better than anything Richard Stanton or his expensive team could build. And then one day I would make him pay for taking my wife and trying to steal my future. The next morning I woke with a pounding headache and a burning determination. The divorce papers still lay on the coffee table untouched. They could wait. I had more important things to do. I started a coding marathon fueled by rage, heartbreak, and caffeine. For 4 days I barely slept. I survived on instant noodles, coffee, and pure stubbornness. I improved the algorithms, tightened the code, added features that I had only planned as future updates. On the 4th day the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find a courier holding a thick envelope. "Delivery for Ethan Miller," he said. The envelope carried the Stanton Enterprises logo. Inside I found a check for $50,000 and a short letter. The letter used careful corporate language, but the meaning was clear. They were aware of similarities between my platform and theirs. The check was presented as a friendly gesture, a way to avoid any misunderstanding. I stared at the check. $50,000. That was the price Richard Stanton had put on my years of work. $50,000 for my ideas and for the woman who had left with them. Anger flooded me. I tore the check into tiny pieces and let them fall to the floor like confetti. Then I picked up my phone and called James Wright. James was a veteran tech investor. He had a reputation for backing strange and risky startups that others ignored. We had spoken before, but I had always felt my platform was not ready to show. Now I did not have that luxury anymore. James the first said when he answered, "I am ready to show you the platform. Tomorrow, 9 in the morning." 2 days later I sat across from him in his sleek office. I had stayed up all night polishing the demo, chasing down bugs, and making sure every part of the system ran smoothly. I looked tired but focused. "So, Ethan," James said after we exchanged a few polite words. "Laura will not be joining us. She usually sits in on these meetings." The comment caught me off guard. I had not told many people about the divorce. "We are separated," I said, clearing my throat. "But that will not affect the project. If anything, I am more committed than ever." "I see," he replied, watching me closely. "Well then, show me what you have." I launched the demo and walked him through the platform. I explained how my predictive analytics system could process huge amounts of unstructured data faster and more accurately than anything currently on the market. I showed him examples, dashboards, and results. As I talked, I saw his interest grow. He leaned forward, asked more detailed questions, and tested my assumptions. "This is impressive, Ethan," he said at last. "But I have heard rumors that Stanton Enterprises is developing something similar. Supposedly they plan to launch in the next quarter." My heart sank. Richard was moving quickly. "Mine is better," I said firmly. "And I can prove it." "How?" "Give me a data set," I said. "Any real data set. Let me show you in real time what this platform can do." James thought for a few seconds. Then he pulled out his phone and made a quick call. After a short conversation, he ended the call and turned back to me. "My assistant is sending you a data set from one of my portfolio companies," he said. "They have been struggling to make sense of their customer behavior data. No one has been able to analyze it properly." A few moments later, I received the file. It was huge. I loaded it into my platform, set the parameters, and let the algorithms run. Within minutes, patterns began to appear. Clear correlations. Hidden groupings. Predictive insights that would have taken a team weeks to discover using traditional tools. James stared at the screen, his eyes wide. This is remarkable, he said quietly. This is only the start, I replied. With proper funding, I can expand the platform a lot more. New features. New markets. By the end of the meeting, James was no longer just interested. He was excited. I am prepared to offer $2 million in seed funding for 15% equity, he said. But you will need to move quickly. If Stanton reaches the market before you, it will be much harder. They will not beat me, I promised. And James, I need more than money. I need introductions. I need to meet the right people. Investors. Journalists. Industry leaders. I want the tech world to know who built this platform. That might be even more valuable than the money, he said with a smile. Consider it done. When I walked out of his office with a signed term sheet in my hands, I felt something I had not felt since the night Laura left. Hope. And under that hope, something sharper. The first outline of a plan that did not end at simple success. It stretched further. It involved Richard Stanton. In the next 3 months, I hardly left my apartment except for meetings with James and the people he introduced me to. We formed a company and called it Miller Analytics. We incorporated in Delaware. With the new money, I hired a small team of talented developers who could help turn my half-broken prototype into a professional platform. The divorce went through quietly. Laura did not ask for anything from our small collection of furniture and savings. She clearly believed her future with Richard would give her everything she needed. I signed the papers without even fully reading them. My mind was already focused on something else. 6 months after Laura walked out, Miller Analytics launched at TechCrunch Disrupt. Our presentation got rave reviews. James had trained me on how to present, how to tell a story, and how to look like a founder worth backing. The old rumpled t-shirts and tired eyes were gone. I wore tailored shirts, kept my beard trimmed, and learned to carry myself with confidence while still looking like a real startup guy. During the event, 3 major clients signed up right away. They were impressed with the speed and accuracy of our platform. By the end of the conference, we had a long waiting list for our beta program and interest from large investment firms for our next funding round. Then came the news we had been waiting for. Stanton Enterprises announced a delay in the launch of their analytics platform. They mentioned technical challenges and performance issues. Rumors started to spread that their algorithms were just not working the way they had promised. I thought I knew why. They had tried to rebuild my ideas based on whatever Laura had told them. But she had not seen all the details. She did not know the deeper logic and the hidden tricks. Without the full picture, they had hit walls they could not get past. The core innovation was still mine alone. James called me the day after their announcement. You did it, kid, he said. Stanton is stumbling and everyone is talking about you. Now you have a choice. Do you want to grow slowly and safely, or do you want to go big? Big, I answered without a second of doubt. I want to go to New York. 2 weeks later, we opened a modern office in Manhattan. It was only 10 blocks away from Stanton Enterprises headquarters. That choice was not an accident. I wanted Richard to see that I was on his territory now. I became obsessed with growth. I worked long hours and pushed my team hard. Our series of funding round brought in $18 million. We used it to hire more people, improve the platform, and expand to new clients. We grew so fast that our competitors were afraid of us. I changed too. The awkward programmer who hid behind his screen began to disappear. I learned how to speak confidently in rooms full of executives. I bought better clothes. I moved into a stylish apartment in Tribeca. Every part of this new version of me felt like a weapon I was sharpening for the future. I even started dating again. I chose women who appeared in magazines and on social pages. It was not always about romance. Sometimes it was strategy. I knew Laura read those pages. I wanted her to see what she had walked away from. 9 months after our launch, Miller Analytics had grown to 50 employees. Our clients included big-name companies, and our valuation was nearing $200 million. We were competing directly with Stanton Enterprises for contracts, and more often than not we were winning. Then came a moment I had both feared and secretly wanted. I received an invitation to speak at the annual Tech Innovation Summit. Richard Stanton was also on the schedule as a speaker. Our talks were set on the same day, one after the other. I would speak first. He would follow. The night before the summit, I barely slept. I stood at the window of my hotel suite, looking at the Manhattan skyline. I imagined what I would say to him if we met. I wondered if he even knew my name, or if Laura had ever told him how everything began. The next morning, I arrived at the summit early. I listened to the opening sessions and waited for my time. When they finally called my name, the room was packed. I stepped on stage and began my talk. I explained how Miller Analytics was changing the way businesses predicted outcomes and made decisions. I showed examples of real results. I answered questions. The audience was engaged and interested. As I reached the end of my talk, I noticed a man standing at the back of the room. Silver hair at the temples. Deep tan. Impeccable suit. Broad shoulders. Older than in the glossy photos, but clearly the same man. Richard Stanton. Next to him stood Laura. She looked stunning in a designer dress that probably cost more than my first car. Our eyes met and I saw pure shock in hers. This was not the broke, stressed Ethan she had left in a cramped apartment. This was someone new. Someone she had never expected to see. I finished to loud applause. As I stepped off the stage, the moderator announced the next speaker. Please welcome Richard Stanton, CEO of Stanton Enterprises. We passed each other on the steps. Up close, I could see the fine lines on his face and the confidence in his posture. Impressive presentation, he said, holding out his hand. Richard Stanton. I shook his hand, gripping it a bit harder than necessary. Ethan Miller, I replied. Miller Analytics. For a second something flickered in his expression. Then his face became careful and calculating. Miller, he said. Any relation to Laura Miller? So she had kept my last name. Interesting. Ex-husband, I said evenly. Small world, is it not? Before he could reply, the moderator called him again and he had to step onto the stage. I moved to the back of the room where Laura still stood, looking slightly pale. Hello, Laura, I said quietly. You look good, Ethan, she managed. I had no idea you would be here. Clearly, I said with a small smile. Are you enjoying the summit? The talks have been very interesting. She glanced nervously toward the stage where Richard had started his presentation. His voice did not have the same energy as mine. The audience seemed less excited. You have changed, she said softly. Success will do that, I replied. I meant to contact you when I heard about your company to congratulate you, she said. Did you? I answered. Better late than never, I suppose. She lowered her voice. Does Richard know who you are? She asked. Who you really are? He does now, I said, nodding toward the stage. But do not worry. I did not mention how helpful you were when you told him about my early algorithms. That can stay between us. She went pale. Ethan, that is not what I meant, she began. It did not matter, right? I cut in calmly. Because I was just a small-time programmer from Brooksville. A man who would never amount to anything. On stage, Richard struggled with difficult questions. The crowd was polite but not excited. Your husband seems to be having a tough time, I said. I have heard Stanton Enterprises has had a few setbacks lately. What are you doing, Ethan? She asked quietly. Are you targeting his business on purpose? I laughed softly. The tech world is competitive, I said. May the best platform win. After his talk, Richard returned to the back of the room. His shoulders were tense. His smile looked forced. Darling, he said to Laura, barely looking at me. We need to go. We have that dinner. Of course, she replied, taking his arm though her gaze remained on me. It was surprising to see you, Ethan. I am sure we will see more of each other. New York can feel like a small town sometimes, I said pleasantly. Richard gave me a short nod. Miller, he said. Good luck with your startup. We are already past the startup phase, I corrected him. But thank you. And good luck with your technical challenges, was it? His jaw tightened, but he said nothing as he led Laura away. That moment at the summit changed everything. Within weeks, the industry was buzzing about the rivalry between Miller Analytics and Stanton Enterprises. Analysts compared our performance, our clients, and our technology. Most of those comparisons favored us. Our stock climbed. Theirs began to slide downward. I used this momentum. We went after their biggest clients with professional demos that highlighted how our platform outperformed theirs. We hired 3 of their top developers, and they confirmed what I had guessed about their struggling analytics project. My public profile grew as well. I appeared in Forbes and other magazines. I spoke on business news shows. Journalists loved the story of the unknown programmer from a small town who built a serious competitor to a giant. I made sure every story mentioned my humble beginnings in Brooksville and the way Miller Analytics started with almost nothing. It was a neat contrast to the image of Richard Stanton, the established wealthy CEO. About 6 months after the summit, we secured a huge contract with Global Finance Partners, one of Stanton Enterprises' oldest and most profitable clients. When the news broke, our stock jumped 15% in a single day. That evening, I received a text from an unknown number. This is not a game you want to play. Back off. The message was short and threatening. I saved the number under his name and did not respond. If anything, the threat confirmed that he was feeling the pressure. 2 weeks later, there was a charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It was one of those events filled with important people, expensive clothes, and quiet competition. I attended because of business, but also because I knew that Richard and Laura would likely be there. As I moved through the crowd with a glass of champagne, I saw Laura standing alone near a marble statue. She looked thoughtful and worried. Penny, for your thoughts, I said as I walked up. She jumped slightly. Ethan, she said. You seem to be everywhere lately. It is that kind of city, I joked, looking around. No Richard tonight. He is dealing with a situation at the office, she said. Something you might know about. Global Finance Partners, maybe. I smiled. They made a business decision, I said. Nothing personal. It feels personal, she replied quietly. What do you want, Ethan? Is this about revenge? Are you trying to destroy Richard's company? This is about building the best company I can, I answered smoothly. If that affects Stanton Enterprises, well, competition is healthy. She studied me for a moment. You have become exactly what you used to criticize, she said. Cutthroat. Obsessed with success. Willing to step on others to climb higher. I learned from the best, I said, gesturing at the room full of wealthy guests. Is this not the world you wanted? The galas, the fame, the money? I am just giving you a look at what it might have been like if you had stayed. That is cruel, she whispered. Crueler than leaving your husband the night before his big break, I asked. Crueler than sharing his private work with his rival. She flinched. Richard and I are getting married, she said suddenly. Next month at the plaza. Congratulations, I said. I am sure it will be beautiful. I want you to stop this, she continued. Whatever you are doing to him. Stop as a wedding gift. I laughed. Now who is being cruel, I asked. No, Laura. I am only getting started. She grabbed my arm. Richard is dangerous when he feels trapped, she said. You do not know what he might do. He does not know what I will do either, I replied. I gently removed her hand. Enjoy your evening. Give my regards to your future husband. As I walked away, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my CFO. "We need to talk. Stanton is making moves." The next morning I found out what those moves were. Stanton Enterprises had filed a lawsuit against Miller Analytics. They accused us of stealing intellectual property and using corporate espionage. The irony nearly made me laugh. "They have no case," Marcus said after reading the complaint. "This is a desperate attempt to scare your investors and slow your progress. Can we fight back?" I asked. "Absolutely," he said with a grin. "We will file a countersuit. We will claim that Stanton's delayed analytics platform was based on your work which Laura shared without your permission during your marriage. That will drag her into the case, of course." "That does not bother me," I said after a second of thought. She made her choices. The news of the legal battle hit the media quickly. Headlines described it as a clash between old power and new talent. Our stock dropped briefly but then recovered when industry experts began doubting Stanton's accusations and praising our innovations. 3 days after the lawsuit, I received a heavy envelope in the mail. The paper was thick and expensive with gold lettering. It was a wedding invitation. "Mr. and Mrs. Richard Stanton request the pleasure of your company." Inside there was a small handwritten note from Laura. "Ethan, I would love for you to see what real success looks like. No hard feelings, Elle." I stared at the note for a long time. The nerve it took to send that after everything she had done almost impressed me. I replied simply, "Ethan Miller +1 will attend." Then I called my finance team. "I want to know everything about Stanton Enterprises," I said. "Their financial health, their board members, their loans, their shareholders. Everything. Are you thinking about buying them?" my CFO asked. "Something like that," I replied. What we found over the next weeks was interesting. On the surface, Stanton Enterprises looked strong, but underneath they were over-leveraged. They had taken on too much debt. Their expansion had been aggressive and risky. Their stock value depended heavily on the image of strong leadership. With the right timing and strategy, they were vulnerable. I started quietly buying their shares through different investment vehicles and friendly partners. Not enough to be obvious at first. Just steady buying. At the same time, we spoke privately with important shareholders and board members, raising questions about Richard's recent decisions and the lawsuit. 2 weeks before the wedding, I received another text from Richard. "I know what you are doing. Stop now or I will destroy everything you built." I forwarded the message to Marcus with a short note. More proof for harassment. The next day, Stanton Enterprises announced a press conference. Richard appeared in front of the cameras and spoke about a bold new direction for the company. He said they would move hard into artificial intelligence and machine learning. He announced big plans and new projects. The market liked the speech. Their stock rose 8%. "James called me. He is trying to outflank you," he said. "Move into fresh territory." "Let him try," I said calmly. "He is too late." The week before the wedding, we made our move. Miller Analytics announced a public tender offer to buy Stanton Enterprises shares at a generous price above the current market value. The business world was shocked. A young company, barely 3 years old, was trying to buy a much older giant. What the public did not know was that we already controlled close to 30% of Stanton's shares. We also had agreements from several large shareholders that would give us majority control once the tender offer went through. The move was hostile, fast, and ruthless. Richard called me not long after the announcement. "You cannot do this," he shouted. "The board will never allow it." "The board does not have a choice," I replied. "The shareholders will decide. Now they have an option that gives them more value than you can provide." "This is about Laura, is it not?" he demanded. "She chose me over you and you cannot stand it." "This is about business," I said. "You tried to steal my work, threatened me, and sued my company. Did you really think there would not be consequences?" "I will fight you with everything I have," he said. "You do not have much left," I pointed out. "But look on the bright side. You still have the wedding to enjoy." I hung up before he could answer. The timing was not a coincidence. I wanted him to be angry, distracted, and humiliated on the day he cared about most. But I did not want to stop the wedding. I wanted it to happen. Because I still had one more move to play. The day of the wedding was bright and clear. I dressed in a custom Tom Ford suit, fastened a platinum Patek Philippe watch around my wrist, and had my driver take me to the Plaza Hotel. My +1 was Jessica, my vice president of operations. She was sharp and understood exactly what today meant. This was not a romantic trip. It was strategic. "Remember," I told her as the car stopped. "We are not here to cause a scene. We are here to observe." "And to be observed," she replied with a small smile. The ballroom was covered in white flowers. Soft music floated through the air. Waiters moved quietly with trays of champagne. I recognized faces from magazines and financial news shows. Laura walked down the aisle in a Vera Wang gown that probably cost more than our entire old apartment. I watched without emotion. No anger. No sadness. Just a strange calm curiosity, as if I was watching someone else's story. Richard stood at the front in a perfect tuxedo, smiling like a man who believed nothing could touch him. He did not notice me in the middle rows. But I noticed several board members checking their phones again and again. The ceremony was short and elegant. They said their vows, exchanged rings, and kissed. Everyone clapped. So did I. It was during the reception that things began to fall apart. Richard and Laura moved from guest to guest, receiving congratulations. Then Richard's phone buzzed. He checked it, frowned deeply, and excused himself. He disappeared into a side room. When he came back, his face looked as if the blood had drained out. He hurried over to one of his executives. Soon more phones buzzed. More serious faces appeared. The business side of the guest list sensed trouble. Then Richard saw me. Our eyes met across the room. I raised my glass in a small silent toast. Confusion filled his face at first, then shock as realization hit. After that came anger. He started moving toward me, but another board member stopped him with a tablet in hand. Richard stared at the screen. His expression collapsed. The news had broken. Miller Analytics had successfully taken control of Stanton Enterprises. We now had a majority of the shares. The board would be restructured. I would become the new chairman. In simple terms, I now own the company he had built. Laura still moved among the guests, smiling and talking, unaware of the disaster unfolding around her. She showed off her ring, laughed with old friends. I decided it was time to offer my congratulations. Laura, I said as I approached. You look beautiful. She turned and her jaw nearly dropped. Ethan, she stammered. I did not think you would actually come. I would never miss your big day, I said calmly. I kissed her cheek briefly. You did a wonderful job. Everything looks perfect. What are you doing here really? She asked under her breath. I was invited, I said, raising my eyebrows. And I wanted to see how the other half lives. Very impressive. She looked me over slowly. The suit. The watch. The quiet confidence. The man standing in front of her was far from the one she had left. I heard your company is doing well, she said. Is that your date? Jessica, I said. She is my VP of operations. She is brilliant. I glanced over her shoulder where Richard was surrounded by agitated men in suits. Have you noticed your husband? I asked softly. He looks a little worried. What is going on? She asked, frowning. What are they talking about? Just some business news, I answered. Nothing that has to ruin your special day. Tell me, Laura, are you happy? Did you get everything you wanted? Of course I am happy, she replied automatically. Richard gives me everything. Everything has a cost, I said quietly. I learned that from you. Before she could speak, Richard marched toward us. His face was tight and furious. Laura, he snapped. We need to talk. No. Richard, what is wrong? She asked. This is our wedding reception. Ask him, Richard said, pointing at me. Ask your ex-husband. I offered my hand. Richard Stanton, I said. It is nice to finally meet you properly. Congratulations on your marriage. He ignored my hand. You planned this, he spat. Today of all days you launched a hostile takeover during my wedding. Orchestrated what exactly? I asked lightly. He took a step closer. He took the company, Laura, he said. A hostile takeover. He now has control. Laura stared at me in horror. You did what? She whispered. Business is business, I replied. Timing is everything. I seem to remember hearing that somewhere. You are a monster, Richard said. You ruined my wedding day. Did I asked calmly. Or did you ruin it yourself with years of risky decisions and arrogance? Guests around us had gone quiet. Phones were out. People were clearly reading the breaking news. We should talk in private, I suggested. Maybe in one of the conference rooms upstairs. My team prepared a transition plan. It is more generous than you deserve, to be honest. You think I will just accept this, he said. That I will continue at my own company under your command. Our company now, I corrected. Technically it belongs to the shareholders. They have made it clear they want new leadership. Laura stared at me as if she did not recognize me. How could you do this today? She asked. Of all days. How could I repeated with a small laugh. You left me for this man the night before I secured the funding that changed everything. You shared my work with him. You invited me to your wedding with a smug note about real success. Did you honestly think I would just clap and smile? Richard frowned. What work? His eyes moved between Laura and me. What is he talking about? A flicker of guilt crossed Laura's face. It was not like that, she began. I might have talked about your project a little, but... She told you enough for your team to copy parts of my technology, one said. Not enough to build the whole thing, but enough that your lawyers should worry. Richard stared at her in disbelief. Is this true? He demanded. I did not think it mattered, she said weakly. Because I was just a nobody, I finished for her. The poor programmer from Brooksville. Laura opened her mouth, but no words came out. If you will excuse me, I said. I have new board members to greet. We have to discuss the future of Miller Stanton Enterprises. I turned to go, but Laura caught my arm again. Ethan, wait, she pleaded. Please. 5 minutes. Richard was already being dragged away by his legal team. He barely noticed his new bride slipping through a side door with me. We stepped onto a quiet balcony overlooking the city. The noise of the reception faded behind us. Say what you need to say, I told her. Laura took a deep breath. I am sorry, she said. I am sorry for how I left. For what I said. For sharing your work. For all of it. Which part exactly? I asked. The part where you called me a failure, or the part where you gave my ideas to someone else? She looked down. All of it, she whispered. I was unhappy, Ethan. I felt stuck. I did not see a future with us. And now I asked. Are you happy with the future you chose? She glanced back through the glass doors at the chaos in the ballroom. I thought I was, she said slowly. Until today. Until the money and power were in danger, I said. Interesting timing. That is not fair, she said weakly. I did not marry Richard just for his money. I raised an eyebrow. Not only for his money, she admitted. He was stable and successful. He knew what he wanted and knew how to get it. You had dreams, Ethan. Beautiful dreams. But dreams do not pay rent. Does this look like a dream to you? I asked. Miller Analytics is now valued at over $1 billion. We employ hundreds of people. And we just took over Stanton Enterprises. I had no idea things had grown so much, she said. I thought you had some success, sure. I did not know it was like this. You never really believed in me, I said quietly. That is not true, she protested. I supported you for years. You supported me until you saw a faster elevator, I replied. Then you stepped out. She winced. Why did you invite me to the wedding, I asked. The real reason. She hesitated. Maybe I wanted to prove something, she said. Maybe I wanted you to see I was happy. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe I wanted to show you what you had lost. In other words, I said you wanted to rub your new life in my face. She nodded slightly, unable to deny it. What happens now, she asked. With the company. With us. Now I said Richard has two options. He can fight a losing war to keep control and be destroyed. Or he can accept my offer, step down, and keep some of his dignity. And us, she repeated. What about us? There was real vulnerability in her voice. For a moment I saw the woman I had once loved more than anything. There is no us, I said gently. There has not been for a long time. But there could be, she said, stepping closer. We could try again. Things are different now. You are different. I almost laughed. You are married, I reminded her. As of about an hour ago. Marriages can be ended, she said quickly. It is complicated with Richard now. Especially after what happened today. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You are suggesting we start over now that I am rich and powerful. Now that I have the life you always wanted. She flushed. That is not fair, she said again. I always cared about you. We have history. History is not enough, I said. You know what I realized after you left? I deserve someone who believes in me when things are hard. Someone who sees my potential, even when I cannot see it myself. I made a mistake, she whispered. We all make mistakes, I agreed. And then we live with them. Her eyes were wet now. What am I supposed to do, she asked. Go back inside and pretend everything is fine while my husband's company falls apart. That is your choice, I said. But if I were you, I would hope that prenup is solid. His net worth just dropped a lot. You are enjoying this, she said accusingly. Watching us suffer. No, I said honestly. I thought I would. But I just feel free. Her shoulders sagged. I never meant to destroy you, Ethan, she said. I just wanted more than we had. And now you have more than you bargained for, I replied. Goodbye, Laura. I left her standing on the balcony and walked back inside. The reception looked like it was dying. Guests were leaving early. Staff were confused. Richard was nowhere in sight. Jessica found me near the bar. Mission accomplished, she said quietly. I nodded. Let us go. As we headed toward the exit, a sudden shout came from near the gift table. Miller. Richard staggered toward me, his cheeks red, his eyes wild. He looked like a man who had been drinking heavily. You think this is over, he shouted. You think you have won. The remaining guests turned to watch. Phones emerged again. I think you have had enough champagne, I said. You should listen to your wife and go home. My wife, he said with a bitter laugh. You mean the woman who told me all about your little computer program? He turned to Laura. Did you know he was planning this? Did you help him? What? No, Laura said, horrified. I did not know anything about this. Your timing is very suspicious, he snarled. You leave him. You tell me about his ideas. Then he shows up a billionaire and steals my company. Security staff started toward us. That is enough, I said. You are embarrassing yourself and her. You do not get to tell me what is enough, he growled. He grabbed my suit jacket and shoved me. Before the guards could reach us, he swung a clumsy punch that hit my jaw. It hurt, but not much. He was too drunk to land a strong hit. I stepped back but stayed on my feet. Feel better? I asked quietly. He stood there breathing hard as the guards took his arms. Do not worry, I told them. I will not press charges. It is his wedding day. Laura rushed to his side, her face pale and shaking. I am sorry, she said to me, though I was not sure who she was apologizing for. Take care of your husband, I said. He will need you. Jessica and I walked out as whispers spread through the room. By morning the story would be everywhere. The takeover, the ruined wedding, the punch in front of guests. It was all too dramatic for the media to ignore. Was it worth it? Jessica asked in the car. Every second, I said, touching my sore jaw. The fallout came quickly. By Monday, the board of what was now called Miller Stanton Enterprises officially removed Richard as CEO. They approved the new leadership structure with me as chairman. They wanted distance from scandal. Richard gave bitter interviews on financial news channels. He called me a thief, a snake, and worse. His anger made him look unstable. His reputation crumbled. Other business ventures of his began to sink. I heard eventually that he moved to his house in the Hamptons. He stayed there, drinking too much and turning down visitors. Laura filed for divorce 3 months after the wedding. Because of the prenup, her settlement was small. Without Richard's fortune, she faded from the social scene. There were rumors she moved back to her hometown. Her dream of endless luxury had shattered. As for me, Miller Stanton Enterprises grew beyond anything I had first imagined in that tiny Brooksville apartment. Our predictive analytics platform became a standard in many industries. The company that almost died in a small cluttered room now employed thousands of people worldwide. Every once in a while I received a message from Laura. Apologies. Memories. Questions. An occasional plea for help. I never replied. Some bridges do not just burn. They fall into the sea. One day at a board meeting someone asked if we would ever remove the Stanton part from our company name. Never, I said with a small smile. It is important to remember where we came from. And to remember where some people ended up.